organized public gatherings. Public hearings on the proposed Public Order Management Bill have been going on before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament, with different stakeholders giving their views. This bill, whose objective is to ensure better organized public gatherings, was tabled in Parliament in October, but since then it has come under attack by those who believe that it's not in tandem with the Constitution of Uganda and the rights it upholds. Government, on the other hand, insists that public gatherings must be managed and that the bill is simply proposing what is provided for in other democracies that Ugandans, especially the opposition, are always singling out as better democracies. The Uganda Human Rights Commission presented its views, and from the outset it opposed the bill, saying this bill threatens the fundamental human rights, especially the right to peacefully assemble or even demonstrate. The government, on the other hand, has repeatedly stated that none of these rights is absolute. The Ugandan police force has stated that it needs such a law to be able to ensure law and order, stressing that political developments in Uganda require organized gatherings and demonstrations. Spectrum will continue to gauge the views of different stakeholders to establish if at all this law is relevant or it is simply an attempt to stifle dissent and civic freedoms, as some pundits and human rights organizations have said. Our guests tonight: Assistant Superintendent of Police Anotoli Muleterwa, Community Liaison Officer, Kampala Metropolitan Police. You're most welcome, Mr. Muleterwa.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Good evening, listeners.
We're also joined by Mr. Timothy Kabaale, Communication and Advocacy Officer at the African Center for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture Victims. You're most welcome, Mr. Kabaale.
Thank you very much, moderator.
Mr. Muleterwa, why do we need this law?
In the first place, I must really applaud your gesture of welcoming us and inviting me, particularly as the Community Liaison Officer Kampala Metropolitan, to come and have a partake on this very crucial issue where some people have raised a lot of concern in relation to the bill. Two things that I have noted from your introduction. One is about government insistence. Two is about absoluteness of the right, of the law, or the fundamental rights of individuals. Dear listeners and fellow participants here, I want us to draw our attention on the historical perspective of what we call the fundamental rights and freedoms. That when human beings were born, were created, right from the biblical perspective, when God created man, in Genesis chapter 1, we really see God creating man and putting him in a world of abundance. But as life went on, man went on to rebel against the very God who had aimed at creating happiness for man. Until when God said, no, that happiness must have a comma. And in chapter 3 of the very holy book, the Bible, we see the fruits of the rebellion of man against God. And the heaven, that rebellion spread until the eventual floods, which really came in to cause discipline to man, where we saw Gomorrah and Sodom being wiped off the surface of the universe. Now, in this essence, I'm drawing our listeners to understand that although, like our Constitution in Article 20, it really embraces the inherency of this law, but that inherency must be with the element of not being an absolute right. Because that inheritance, we say, it is God given, it is God created, but even when God created man, he put a regulation against him. So, when we go forward to look at other holy books within the Bible, we have the book of the first letter of St. Peter to the Jews, chapter 2, verse 13 to 17, where the writer is clearly drawing the essence of authority and freedom of man, and bill is calling upon men to respect those in authority and also in verse 17 causes a limitation on people's enjoyment and who to enforce that limitation on that. Now, when we come on the essence of debating this public bill, I want our listeners really to know that I am a policeman, but at the same time, I have stake in Uganda. I need order, I need a peaceful environment, and I need everyone to enjoy his or her right. My right as an individual may not be the same right which I may wish to exercise when I'm in a public domain. And let's get to understand the historical perspective as to why this bill is coming in offing. But when we are talking about Article 29, Article 50, because we are missing the point to talk about Article 43, and others going to talk about Article 92. All in all, these articles in the Constitution and any other law book in Uganda is meant to make us enjoy our freedoms without infringing on the rights of others. So, the history behind this bill is all about what has been taking place in Uganda. Leave alone what people may, because I don't want to cause a comparison, because so many of us want to jump. I have never lived as a refugee outside Uganda, and I know Uganda as my first home and last home. I really expect that whoever is listening to me, that when we are debating the public bill, let's not debate it with the sentiments. Let's talk about it with a lot of objectivity and also put in consideration as to why this bill has come at this time. Look at instances of what happened in 2003. Look at instances.
What happened in 2003?
About the issue of the demonstration on Mabira.
Yes.
And the people.
2007.
It was 2007.
Yes.
As to how people really lost lives as a result of exercising their right to demonstrate and so on. Does your right to demonstrate lead you to infringe on another person's right?
All right. Let's hear from you, Mr. Kabaale. What do you think about this bill?
Thank you, moderator. In as far as there might be a need for this bill, there are areas of contention as far as this bill is concerned. There are certain provisions within the bill that fundamentally impede the enjoyment of human rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution of Uganda. And considering that Uganda is a signatory to a number of international instruments that it is expected to domesticate, there are certain provisions within the bill which need not be taken as they are. As members of civil society, non-state actors, we appreciate the need to have a regulation on public order, issues of demonstrations, issues of protests, but we still believe regulation does not mean prohibition. My friend Anotoli was talking about regulation, limitation, but limitation has also to be regulated, in my opinion, and it has to be moderated. He was citing examples of excesses of demonstrations stand riots, but it does not necessarily mean that every demonstration will become a riot. That is where we need to strike a balance. On one side, we are saying we want to respect the rights of each and everybody. As we attempt to respect the rights of each and everybody, let us also respect the rights of the people who want to express themselves. It is guaranteed in the Constitution of Uganda under Article 29. He highlights something to do with Article 92, which brings to the front the issue of a constitutional court ruling of Mwanga Kivumbi versus the Attorney General in 2005, where the Constitutional Court pronounced itself on the issue of the Inspector General of Government having permitting people to assemble. As we know, human rights, nobody grants human rights. Yes, they can be regulated, but they are not subject to the permission of any one individual. That is what the High Court pronounced itself upon. And when you look at the Public Order Management Bill, there are certain provisions that are doing what is termed retrospective legislations. They are trying to reverse a court decision that was undertaken in 2005. And it is that as civil society organization, we are challenging, referring to Article 92 of the Constitution, where no legislation is supposed to overturn a ruling of a court, and in this case a constitutional court, which is supposed to be the highest point of reference when it comes to constitutional issues. When you look at other provisions within the bill, as far as it is aimed at regulating, we are saying it is prohibitive. It is burdensome to persons in the name of responsibilities, persons who are organizing demonstrations. The broadness of definitions used in the bill can be subject to abuse. Listeners out there can bear witness. Those who are a bit older than me can bear better witness of instances of abuse of power granted to people. The discretion that is given to the Inspector General of Government, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and any officer exercising authority on behalf of any of the two to determine what is a public place, what is reasonable grounds to deny somebody the opportunity to protest, what is reasonable ground to stop a protest. The definition of a public gathering, a public place, can be abused. You and I know that man is a political animal. Regardless of where we work, we have certain inclinations that may overtly or covertly be portrayed. We have had instances of people highlighting partisanship in law enforcement in this country. We have seen some of the happenings that have been going on in this country over the last so many years. Our role is, we want a law that should stand the test of time. As far as this law is concerned, yes, we believe it has been brought in to curb certain situations, but we are persuaded that it is targeting particular instances which may not obtain after its passage. We want a law that will serve Ugandans beyond now. That's why we are saying we would want certain provisions within the law to be altered to be able to serve this country beyond this time.
Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, scrutiny of the Public Order Management Bill. Do we need this law in order to have organized and better police public gatherings? We have an official from the police, Assistant Superintendent of Police, Anotoli Muleterwa, Community Liaison Officer at from the Kampala Metropolitan Police, and Mr. Timothy Kabaale, Communication and Advocacy Officer at the African Center for the Treatment and Rehabilitation of Torture Victims. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. You can also send you text messages. Type the word Spectrum in your phone browser. Message, question or comment, send it to 7197. That is Spectrum. Message, question or comment, send it to 7197. Mr. Muleterwa, why is there so much opposition to this bill? These people don't know what's good for them.
No, I may not say that there's a lot of opposition, but all, you see, we have variations in understanding, we have variations in reasoning, but we need really to bring ourselves on board in order to be on the same wavelength. There are a number of issues which my brother has raised, especially on the instance of being burdensome, the issue of particular instances within the bill. But I really want to inform our listeners and my fellow panelists that this bill has two principles in which we really need to embrace it, and particularly the essence of accountability. That each player, let it be a policeman, let it be an organizer, let it be a participant, let it be the venue owner, we all need to be accountable for our action or inactions. In this essence, we are trying to make sure that what goes wrong or what goes around us, we become very conscious about it. There is no instance in which somebody is being targeted that I'm targeting you.
Well, some people think the government is targeting the opposition.
And that's what you have said. Some people think.
Yes, and they could.
And I wouldn't like really to think that it is only the opposition which demonstrates. It's not. Let's even by the way ask ourselves, why do people demonstrate? Is it because of political reasons only? Because in any way, There are instances where I've seen people here hold demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations.
Yes.
Now, if those have held such peaceful demonstrations, why not those others who think their rights must not really go within the realm of the law?
Well, but why target a specific group? You're interested in the peaceful ones. You're interested in the political.
No, listen. Like which political one are you talking about? Because here we have instances where
I would like to read to my friend.
Let's look at some of the poison clauses that this gentleman
is talking about. I find Anotoli, you're talking about public meetings not only being political gatherings, but according to this bill, they are saying a public meeting means a gathering, assembly, concourse, procession, or demonstration of 3 or more persons in or on any public road as defined in the Traffic and Road Safety Act or other public places. It says, at which principles, policy, actions, or failure of any government, political party, or political organization, whether or not that party or organization is registered under any law, are discussed. B, held to form pressure groups to submit petitions to any person to demonstrate support for or opposition to views, principles, policy, actions, or omissions of any person or body of persons or institution. Yes, it may not entirely be political, but when we look at the situation in Uganda, most of the issues to deal with policy and what have you have a bearing on government. And the practice has been, the high-handedness of law enforcement has actually been felt in areas where people are trying to challenge actions pertaining government.
Let's hear from you.
Yes,
it's targeting this political.
No, listen.
It's written in the law.
When he's trying to, when he quotes that, let me give you instances of where people have had demonstrations in the bearing of government. But I wouldn't like really you to presume that I'm here to
defend government.
To defend government. But I'm here to look at a position in which we really need to all to enjoy our rights very responsibly. There are instances
but you can't say 3 people meeting, they should talk to the Inspector General.
No,
something else to do.
Listen, give me a point to justify my cause. Why do you want to drive me on what you think that's what makes the bill to be more political? Take an instance where we have had people causing their sentiment on the homosexual. Didn't it take place?
What have
didn't it have a bearing on government?
Tell us
didn't it work with police in order to for the demonstrators to express their feeling and express their views? Take another example.
Explain that example clearly. Some people might not have that background that you.
Now, okay. What happened was that there was a group of religious leaders who organized a demonstration against the gay.
Yes.
The gay.
They used to call them queers in the past. Now they've changed the name a little bit. Homosexuals.
Yeah, homosexuals. Wow. Okay. So in this way, I remember very well that was around 2010 when following those instances, the organizers really sought to work closely with the police and said, what do? We want to express our feelings and take, our views and take our memorandum to the Speaker of Parliament. What do? How do we make this? They followed the procedure and went to the Inspector General of Police, upon which we worked together with them right from the venue. That is Makerere. That is Pastor Semper, Martin Semper. Yes, he was the head and organizer of that. We moved with him.
They were not changing government.
No, but who is changing government when he demonstrates? What we are trying to imagine is that wherever somebody is demonstrating, he is demonstrating to change government. We are saying people who are demonstrating have their other
government policies.
Wasn't it changed? Do you think? You mean how far is that momentum of that bill here in Uganda? So, in any way. And leave alone that, there was also the instance of women.
Yes.
The women, you saw what they did. They moved with the knives, with the saucepans, and they were even part of the organization, like
banging them at intervals.
Whatever. But you witnessed that. Now, why would you really think that those people really successfully worked with the police and could not in any way go to the extent of destroying cars, go to the extent of burning the road, go to the extent of entering people's shops. But those others who enter and burn the roads, who enter people's
Those are
shops,
the ones you target.
they commit offense. Don't you think?
So I wanted to give birthday gifts at City Square. You stopped them.
To give what?
Birthday gifts. There were mangoes and other things.
I don't know whether they wanted to give birthday gifts. I don't know to who. Who are they giving? And
a friend of his.
No, get me. Edmond, let's be honest. If you really want to give a birthday, do you really give to an effigy? Do you really give to? Let's not become very satirical in presentation and all forms. Please, let's be honest in whatever we are doing, and let's not politicize whatever. Please, I want to call upon all our listeners and my fellow panelists here that if we really need to be very, very, to enjoy our country, let's be responsible. Let's be accountable. Let's be subjected to the law. Even me, remember, in that law, I am not spared.
It could catch you.
Definitely, because if I don't really, if I omit or commit, I must be held responsible for the action I would have committed.
Mr. Kabaale.
Thank you, Edmond. Actually, the challenge we see with this bill, one, is with the broad definitions of some of the concepts involved. A public meeting, like I told you, can be anything. Assuming people went for a social, of course, down here in the definition under section 6, it provides that notwithstanding a meeting held exclusively for lawful purposes of a public body, members of a registered organization, of a trade union, we are wondering, assuming these people gather and they resort to activities related to the definition before discussing policy,
yes,
what will happen to these people? The definition is too broad, which it can be abused. Secondly, when you look at the powers that are given to the Inspector General of Government and
police
and the Inspector General of Police and the authorized officer to whom he or she may delegate those powers, it causes us a reason to worry, because it is at the discretion of this individual in a particular circumstance to determine whether to permit a demonstration to happen or not. There are cases of issues that have immediacy. I'll give you an example. If the recent spontaneous demonstrations about women and what have you, you have to write to the Inspector General of Police within a stipulated period of time for that person to permit you to or not to demonstrate. Some issues can be overtaken by time.
Yes.
What would be the relevance of you demonstrating when the situation you want to demonstrate about
so it's not practical?
Yes, it is not practical. He's talking about the responsibilities. Cases during the election time, owners of private radio stations denied airtime to opposition candidates and other actors whom about whom they had fear.
Not politically correct, probably.
Yes, about whom they had fears of reprisals in the event that they hosted them.
Yes.
And this bill is asking an owner of a facility to first permit you. Tell me, if you are somebody who owns a radio station up country, I want to come to your radio station and discuss something pertaining government policy. I need to get your permission prior to being hosted. Otherwise, you would be breaking the law.
They could come and find you in the studio.
Exactly.
And take you away.
So these are some of the practical elements of the bill that we are talking about.
All right.
The IGP delegates powers.
We'll talk about a little bit. We're going for a break. I would like us to hear a little bit more about those poison clauses. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, Scrutiny of the Public Order Management Bill. We're going for a break. We'll be back. Do stay tuned.
John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.